he will see those rich cars more interactive. He will see that he can reply to a certain message and get a conversation with the brand. So for the customer's point of view, it is completely transparent.
Okay, and from a wholesaler, from a provider perspective, how is that sort of that trend being managed, or how do you see, and has COVID changed anything on this in that matter of things? Fernando, for example.
Well, we see the SMS A2P increasing, and we of course expect a highly speed up on RCS. Probably all the companies, or research companies, that are predicting that we will see an impact on A2P only in 3 years' time. That RCS begin to replace SMS A2P. It seems to be the natural way, as long as RCS has more capabilities that will replace in the future the SMS A2P. But I will not. It's not possible to tell you 2 years or 4.
Before I leave the messaging, I'd like to move on to other topics and what do you believe are the opportunities besides the sort of messaging field that we've been talking about. But there's a few questions that have been asked, and I would like to relay to you. One of them is what has been the shifts in A2P SMS volume in the Europe market in COVID as compared to pre-COVID periods. So from a volume perspective, I know we keep on saying growing, decreasing, but what is the magnitude of the change? How can you, in any of your business, from what you can see, what has been that magnitude?
I can tell you that the gap ante and post-COVID is around 30% less. Okay, if I compare the volume in this month, compare to the same period of last year, and we recover a little bit, as I was saying, but not totally. And also, especially for Europe, the new lockdown that probably will face in so many countries in the near future will not help much to compensate the gap. So again, we see something around minus 30%, 30, 40, and depending on the country and the reality, for sure.
Is this what, Shanka, is this what you experience from your customer base? Is this what you hear as well, or?
No, that's correct. I mean, of course, the net effect, when you look at the downtrend, the verticals against the verticals that improved, the net effect is, I would say, in the ballpark about around 20% mark. So that's what we are seeing, of course. Yes.
Okay. Pricing also has been brought up as a question. Is pricing an issue for A2P SMS growth or degrowth in European markets?
Okay, the price depends always on the business model. Okay, where you have to consider the price and how you can, what type of service that you need, because in some, as we know, you can utilize alternative way to reach the final customer instead of SMS if the termination cost is too high. For instance, voice instead of SMS, or internet. There are several ways to reach the final customer. So again, as I said, depends on the overall business case, and for sure can be a problem. But again, also depends on how the network are secure. So again, it's always a question of for the mobile network operator to control the network, and then to fix a price that also makes sense. Because again, you can have a full control of your network, block all the what is called gray route, but then you set a price that is too high for OTTs or what to hide for enterprise in order to make a business acceptable, okay? So for sure, the price can be an issue. When you set a price, control your network, you have to, understand, define something that can be, that can allow the business case to be utilized, or the risk is just to lose the messaging traffic versus alternative way to communicate with the final customer. Okay, and this is something that we have been seeing in several countries, so for sure can be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Simona, 100%. I mean, this is exactly what we've seen as well. So the pricing has through the different channels actually the vary because especially when you use the omni channels, yeah, the pricing actually come from X to Y, like the different increments, of course. But yeah, we give it the option to the customers to make use of the best way of getting the messages delivered, or the OTPs, or two-factor authentication messages to be delivered effectively.
Okay.
I think that regarding price, there is always pressure to go down, not from the market, and we have now the opportunity to change a little bit the focus and focus on the value, no? And RCS is especially great for operators because we have the opportunity to a little bit enter into advertising market and to add value to other service, no? Not only be this channel to exchange communication. So this is a good opportunity and a new space that, of course, there are many things to do and to improve, and we need to make it easy the life for our customers, and I mean customers, companies and aggregators and all the ecosystem, no? Because everybody has their own role to play and to help to grow the market all together.
I think the conversation about price will change as you move up the value chain also. So as you build out these, software systems that do omni-channel services, your end customer is buying a subscription to that product. They're no longer buying minutes and messages. And of course, if there is a kind of wholesale pricing conversation to have, it's no longer a commodity one because it's very difficult to rip out these sorts of embedded applications once they're in there. A customer goes into that relationship for a much longer term. So I think that's very promising.
Yeah, so I think it's also referring back to what Isabel was saying earlier of going beyond just the provision of a communication service, but as you add value, then you obviously can play with your pricing very much so. I'd have, before I move on to, Simona talked about data and data services, and I'd like to talk a bit about voice as well in the region, but I have one last question, which is what will the impact of smartphone users from outside Europe with eSIM data plans on your wholesale business? Switching to other global providers is easy. How, Lee or Shanka, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, well, I think any market segments, right? And there are going to be some users, which we might call tarts, who will switch providers at the drop of a hat. And there'll be others that, can't be bothered to go through that pain. And I guess these threats to data roaming revenues already exist. There are, boxes that you can provide which have several SIMs in order for you to pay as little as possible for data. But I think on the whole, a lot of people won't be bothered, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's a difficult subject, of course, when it comes to these things. So, people want to explore these sort of opportunities. They will somehow do it, of course. But, it's just to manage the right expectations for the right customers, of course, so it's a difficult topic, I would say.
Yeah, then also depends also on the quality of the service that can be provided to the customer. the sensibility to price. So there are several elements that get together. Of course, price is always an element, then depending on the customer profile and quality need, again, this is a threat for sure. At the same time, can be seen as an opportunity, okay? Because of course, roaming, pure roaming, doesn't sometimes allow, to run the business case. So of course, you need to provide to your customer alternative way, and so again, that is a reality. That is a reality that all the operator has to face.
Indeed.
Good, thank you. I'd like to touch a little bit on other segments of the wholesale business. We haven't spoken too much about voice. I know, well, we're gonna have a session tomorrow on potential the future of the voice business, but just to get a feel for what happened this year in Europe from a wholesale voice perspective. What is your feedback on this? Maybe, well, Simona, because you're also involved in this, but also Lee and Shanka.
Yeah. Okay. In general, from the wholesale business, voice wholesale business, in the past year there has been consolidation. Okay. So again, big group are consolidating their presence, their possibility also to negotiate rate, and collecting and putting together different operator, for instance, there is like Tofana basis that when the old business was like having a totally different direction, they started to buy, the international wholesale division, voice division of the operators. And this is a general trend that in any case was going on also last year. In general, what we see, as I was telling you also before, what we saw basically also related to the COVID is in the first, let's say, half of the year, a big drop especially on the roaming, on the composition of the voice traffic made by roaming. The visitors, roamers in general, so visitor and roamers decreased. So we saw a minus 50% of volume, of roaming volume, compared to the previous year, the same period. That have been in Europe, of course, recover a little bit in the summer. So starting from June, when the different countries start to open a little bit. And so in general, we saw a kind of compensation of the loss of the previous period that was just a minus 20 compared to 2019. So on that part, there has been, the situation, was like a little bit getting back to normality. But of course, normality is not normality, because in Europe, we were working all the operator with China, in the US, US travelers and Chinese travelers were really making the difference in so many countries. And of course, they are not present any longer. But at least from this element of the voice business, there has been a kind of compensation. On the enterprise side, as I was saying before, it's the same thing that we have been facing for messaging. There has been, at the beginning, more or less, the incoming volume were in line with the previous month. So then there has been drop that has not been recovered. Because as I was saying before, smart working, the fact that the people are working from home, the way to communicate with the customer change, okay? So again, in the voice business, there are the two elements, the roaming part, the traffic made by third party, and the natural traffic made by your customer, okay? So consumer business and enterprise. On the enterprise side, we saw a drop that has not been recovered, okay? And the trend is still the same, okay? So this is more or less the situation, and the trend is the same as the one that I was saying before for our messaging services. Okay, so this is what we see. I don't know if the other colleague have different perspective, but
so from an Xconnect perspective, we don't have I guess strongly representative data here, because don't forget that we are a proxy to what's happening in wholesale. Our customers will use us to give them number portability information in line with routing and voice call, and that is a fairly new market. It's growing. So yes, we did see customers, some of their traffic dropping for certain countries, but overall we've seen an upward trend. But that's more of a byproduct of wholesalers increasing their use of number portability in voice routing.
From our side of the perspective, I think because the voice side it's in the two segments, of course. From the API side of things is more text-to-speech kind of volume. So those things actually we're seeing increase because of the two-factor authentications actually moving out as a failover sort of an option for the voice. But when you have the contact center side of the Vonage business, I think the volumes has been growing because of after the pandemic situation, because of high demand for the contact center in one-volt traffic profiles. So yeah, overall, I think both sides actually have fairly equal kind of increase.
Cool. Good. So yeah, so so would you say that those trends that you've just been depicting, would that become the new normal? So would you say that these are meant to stay within the industry, or would you say that that may just change? And also coming back to what you were saying, Simona, those trends, do you think that would also lead to a stronger thought with regards to potential outsourcing or consolidation, for example?
Okay, in general, as I was saying before, the consolidation is becoming, something quite normal at wholesale level, not just for voice, but for data as well. I mean, it's kind of general trend. And messaging, again, I mean, is a general trend of the industry. Then going back to what will happen in terms of traffic trend in the near future, I believe that is quite complex and complicated to forecast. Because we really don't know what will be the trend of the pandemic in the next month. Okay, so going back to the enterprise, I mean, smart working, will probably be a reality for the next month, if not for the next year, for instance. This will for sure affect several types of business, several enterprises. And so basically, I believe that when our financial department will define next year budget, for sure, the pandemic will still be present on the figures and considered as a reality, impacting the trend of the market, for sure.
Okay, good. I'd like to bring one topic that I guess we heard also today, and is a common ground to all of your businesses, and this is how tackling fraud and security moving forward. I mean, we heard from Isabel that security would be an increasing focus. In the wholesale segment, we see now a lot of, at least in the international environment, wholesale environment, a lot of security portfolios being developed. We here, I mean, obviously in the messaging, fraud and security. How do you see, and we heard also that earlier today, that security is also one way of monetizing the business?
I have in Spain and in other companies, I have seen during the last 15 years an increasing of in voice and SMS, and I feel that every time that we try to close a window, other two are opening. So I don't want to be pessimistic, but what I think is the real solution is to, and probably this is against wholesale, but it's to deliver as direct as possible, everything, voice, SMS, whatever you have. If you deliver from the origin to the end, there is will not possibility to do any fraud. So at least most of the volume, if you do that, you will solve probably most of the fraud cases. That is my personal opinion.
So shorten the link almost to the detriment of the wholesale player to some extent.
Can I chip in, Suzy? So yeah, yes, partly agree, Fernando. I guess I have a little different perspective, and that is, whilst we're going through this transformation and its amazing opportunity, we've opened up a whole bunch of new interfaces to the world, which is also the perfect opportunity for any sort of fraudster. And you know, the fraud management systems in the wholesale world, fairly mature, come on to that in a minute, but giving open access rather than controlled access to the IT hackers of this world, it's so big that wholesalers must get this right, and they don't have the same familiarity with IT security as they have with, you know, managing their interconnects and the fraud management on those interconnects. And you know, Xconnect has been through, I guess, quite a painful exercise over the last 18 months, getting ISO 27001 certified. And I know that is a journey that a lot of wholesalers are on. And you know, we do that to protect our customers, and the enterprises are going to demand the same sorts of certifications of whoever provides data and telecommunication services to them. So I think we shouldn't just think it's as easy as, or we control both ends. You know, even MNOs are super worried, because the amount of malware on people's phones that's generating, you know, fraudulent IRSF activity, because that's the behavior of the app, and the consumer doesn't know about this stuff. So I think a general refresh of fraud and security is absolutely necessary to win in this market. You know, I mentioned that telco FMS systems are fairly mature. There's a lot of attention on AI and ML, you know, machine learning and artificial intelligence to get better. That's great, but there's also some low-hanging fruit. You know, around this is a bit of a shameless plug, right? So apologies for that. Just good old-fashioned number information. You know, we did a case study with a real customer looking at the validity of CLIs, and found that, you know, 8% of CLIs were still invalid. You know, and that represents an opportunity for better routing, better fraud management, and cost saving. And all of that could have been solved with better number information. So I'm just trying to say, Fernando, you're never going to be in control of both ends. It's tough. And
I know. It's a very complex issue, no, of course, and many things can be done and have been doing, no, during last years, but even that, it's always difficult.
We had a really nice example a couple of weeks ago where, you know, a customer was seeing traffic to number ranges which were thought to be allocated, so they let the traffic through. But they were only allocated because the national regulator had assigned these number ranges, but the provider had long since gone out of business. And fraudsters knew this. So they hijacked the ranges because they knew no one would spot it. So, you know, part of stopping fraud, I talked about security, is having just great intelligence. And that's, you know, that's the sort of thing that's a product of the wholesalers as a community sharing intelligence, but also, you know, providers doing some heavy lifting and curating number intelligence. That's without the ISO 27001 headache.
So is this something that you share, Shanka, as well as a view? You know, also I guess using technology and speed in technology progress to improve the security that we use on it throughout the chain, the value chain, and to lift off the complexity in which we are currently going, well, we currently live in without the systems that Lee has just mentioned. Is this the way out of, or is this the way to move forward?
Yeah, I think it's a very sensitive matter for a lot of our, you know, for our industry, of course. Like, you know, everybody's trying to do the best thing that you can do to avoid the fraudsters actually taking control of the market. So as you can see, like, you know, different markets actually developing different technologies as well now to curb these sort of issues, like in the blockchains or, you know, that kind of, you know, difficult, you know, implementation work. So it is a very significant matter, of course. And, but I agree with Fernando, like, you know, because you try to set it for one side, like, you know, you probably like, it's like probably not mushrooms, like, you know, so it's very difficult to put a, you know, control over to contain, you know, all these cases, but everybody's doing their best to, you know, to curb it, and then to, you know, put in the sort of software implementations onto their platforms to prevent those hackers actually taking control.
Yeah, I guess this is more of an industry. Is this more of an industry issue or matter than a regional matter? I guess this is probably applicable to, it goes beyond to Europe than Europe, I suppose.
Absolutely, yes. So that's why they say that, yeah, because different people actually trying their different technologies, like, you know, try to curb this. So whether those will become more of a standard practice down the line, I'm taking like the blockchain technology as an example. Obviously now it is heavily being used in the Indian market, you know, to, I think it's soon it will be moved on to the Middle East as well. So yeah, so whichever the method that is going to be successful, I think that will probably take a precedence into the market.
Yeah, I'm conscious we're running out of time. I had another question that could be very interesting for this round to answer. That is, Telia sold its wholesale carrier business unit. Cost pressure versus revenue declines. Do you see this as a growing trend for wholesale carriers, part of telco groups? Who wants to maybe Simona, who does that?
Our comment depends always depending on, of course, on the company. I mean, the trend, as I was saying before, is for sure the consolidation to justify also the level of marginality of the business. And for sure, it's important also to have, let's say, a strong mother company that is supporting you in this phase. And for sure, as I was telling you also before, you know, the pure wholesaler, they will have to modify a little bit, you know, the focus of the business and the mission of the company. This for sure will become a kind of common trend in the industry.
Okay, thank you. And then just one last word from each of you. If you were to say a few words on how you see the future of wholesale in this region, what would that be? Starting with Fernando, just a couple of words, not much.
Well, from my point of view, at least what we will do in Spain for sure is to focus on the RCS market. That is the opportunity of a new product that will bring us the possibility to increase revenues, to increase margin, and as well to grasp a little bit a new area that is the advertising market. There is, of course, many things to improve, especially to make it easy for our customers and for all the ecosystem. But well, there is already there. It's increasing day by day, and the opportunity is great.
Okay, so RCS is the future and make our customer lives easy.
Of course. Yeah.
Lee?
Well, I think that you know, conversational commerce is going to be mega, okay, but it needs to be underpinned by an identity solution such that the enterprises are confident in their customers and customers are confident in the enterprises that they're engaging with.
Cool. Shanka?
I mean, our focus is actually to providing the best service for the customers. So I think bundling is the services into package deals, sort of things. Actually, it's something we are prioritizing, and it all depends on to the customer and the demand, of course. So whatever the best services we can facilitate to those, we are prioritizing onto those.
Customer focus still. Alfredo?
Yeah, again, as Lee commented, conversational commerce is the next thing. Is the thing that is going to grow in the coming times. So RCS will focus on that to be a key player on that conversational commerce, definitely.
And finally, last but not least, Simona.
As I said, we are modifying our behavior, moving from services to solution that have been built up based on the need of the final customer. So for sure, this will be our mission in the near future.
Fantastic. So very much the customer is at the center of everything is what I hear, and conversational and be able to interact, which is at the end of the day part of what we do. So it is what we do. So thank you very much to all of you for attending this European section. I was very lucky to have you all with me exchanging. Just stay tuned because we have the recharge meditation slot coming up, and then following on we'll have the wholesale roaming session, and many more to come. So thank you to all, and have a great day.
Thank you, Suzy.
Thank you.